We are about 8 months into the year of 2021, and I think I already have my top 3 albums of the year. These albums are so great that I don't think anyone else can release something that is better than them in the last 4 months that we have of this year. And I think if you like one of these albums, then you're gonna like all 3 of them. Here's 3 albums that came out in 2021 that you need to listen to. The first album I'm going to be talking about today is To See the Next Part of the Dream by an artist called Parannoul. There's very few times where an album can consume me like this album has. The last album that had me so consumed and just enthralled in the sound of it was Mid-Air Thief's Crumbling. And if you've seen my video on Mid-Air Thief, then you know exactly how I feel about Mid-Air Thief and that album. And this album, coincidentally, also by another South Korean musician that likes to stay anonymous. I am so impressed with this album. It's a shoegaze album. It came out on February 23rd in this year, 2021. As far as I'm aware, it's only one person. There's not a lot of notes on the Bandcamp page, so I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that he does all the instrumentation on this album. This is his second album. He did one before this, posted up on Bandcamp, that I haven't listened to. Our good old friend Speggy on the Discord, join the Discord if you haven't joined the Discord yet. He recommended this album to me, and I was so impressed with this album. It is super noisy. That's not necessarily a bad thing, though, because it is a shoegaze album. I don't listen to a lot of shoegaze, so I don't know how this ranks with other shoegaze albums, but I think this album's incredible. It's Korean, right? Unless you can speak Korean, then you're not really gonna understand the lyrics, but I don't think that matters because there's some really catchy melodies in this thing. There's a lot of like sing-songy moments that you could sing along to, like Chicken and the song Beautiful World, especially the chorus of Beautiful World. I think that melody is really easy to sing along to, even though I don't know what he's saying. The guitars in this album are just so overwhelming. It's super noisy and it can drown out the rest of the instrumentation, but I think it sounds super sick. The drums on this album, the drum playing is phenomenal. There's awesome fills throughout this entire thing. There's even some samples. The song White Ceiling specifically has a lot of samples. It starts with a bunch of like clocks ticking around, and there's a moment in there where there's a bunch of like weird vocal samples going on, some people chatting. It sounds like a very hectic conversation. And there's also some great synths throughout this entire album, especially in the song Analog Sentimentalism. Such a fun synth throughout the entire song. I just gotta show it to you guys. The entire album has so many distorted guitar riffs, super fuzzy, super distorted, and super awesome to listen to. Also, I really want to point out the piano in Beautiful World, because the piano in Beautiful World is so beautiful. That song in general is so beautiful. A lot of these songs are really long, but I don't think that really matters because the structure throughout these entire songs are amazing. Like I said, I haven't been so captivated by an album since I found Mid-Air Thief's Crumbling. This album definitely makes me feel some type of way. Black Country New Road for the first time. It's a 7-piece band consisting of 7 people, because that's what 7-piece means. They come from London, England. They formed back in 2018, so it's still very new, and this is their debut album. And this album just shows that this band has so many great ideas and that they're here to stay, and they're really ready to make their mark on the music world. This album, by the way, was released on February 5th, 2021. It's like an experimental rock band with some post-punk influences and even some jazz influences. One of them plays the violin, and the other one plays the trumpet, and so they get some really nice trumpety, violin-y licks in there, and it adds a really great dynamic to the whole instrumentation and vibe of the album. The album starts off with the instrumental track titled Instrumental, and it really just shows you the type of shit that you're gonna get into with this album. This band has such a sick dynamic because they can go from just super quiet and soft to the super explosive in like a matter of minutes. There's also some great lyrics in this thing. I really love the storytelling, and there's also a lot of cool pop culture references. One of the songs, Athens Grace, they sample lyrics from Phoebe Bridgers. The line, "Why don't you sing with an English accent?" That's the line in the song. Super cool to listen to. And then also, you can't mention their pop culture references without mentioning the song Sunglasses. Leave Kanye out of it. I love it. I love it. I'm not gonna leave Kanye out of it. And you know what? You probably made a better album than Kanye did, because I still haven't heard the Kanye album. Each song has such an interesting structure. They really like to play around with like linear song patterns, so you're not really ever gonna hear the same thing twice in a song. There's like moments like in Sunglasses where it switches up like halfway through the song, and you're not expecting that switch up, but then it switches you up, and then you just roll with it. And the second half of the song is phenomenal. This entire album is just incredible, and it really keeps you on your toes. This is probably my favorite debut from a band ever, and I'm so excited to see what Black Country New Road does with the rest of their career. It's gonna be really exciting to see it play out. Black Midi Cavalcade. This album was released on May 26th. This is from a 4-piece band that came from England, London, England, Tea and Crumpets. This band is kind of hard to put into words, to be honest, because this band is truly just all over the place. But the best way to describe it is like a experimental math rock, noise rock type of band. You just don't know what you're gonna get into when you put on this album, or any of their albums, because this is their second album. They're also another newer band. They released their debut back in 2019, so this is their second album. One thing that Black Midi does is really well, and something that I really enjoy about Black Midi, I always wish I could experience their albums for the first time again, just because there's so many twists and turns throughout this entire thing. And even then, after listening to it multiple times, there's points in this album where I'll still be shocked about what they do. It's just so out there and so all over the place, and it's incredible. But this album is very experimental, so let me just warn you a little bit. If you haven't listened to Black Midi before, beware. It is very experimental, kind of spooky almost, but super sick. The opener, John L, is one of the coolest openers that I've ever heard for an album ever. There's so many sick like false endings in this song. There's a really cool piano in there. The guitars in this thing, they're so wildly weird and complicated, but they're so fun to listen to and just trying to understand what they're doing. And the vocals from the vocalist here, I don't know who the vocalist is, but the vocals are so dynamic. He really just uses his voice in a bunch of different ways. There's tracks that are extremely explosive, like you got the opener John L that's super explosive, and then you got Hogwash and Balderdash. But then you got softer songs like the song Diamond Stuff, and it's like 6.5 minutes long, and like 4 of those minutes is just a soft build with only like a couple guitar notes being played, and then it just builds at the end. The song Marlene Dietrich is also really soft, and then you get songs that are just like right in the middle, and they're like super soft, and they're also super explosive, like the song I'm gonna read this one off, Kono Bromelacia Patilla. Quite a track name right there. This whole album has such a large variety of sounds, and it's super sick. This album really just keeps you on your toes. It's so explosive, but it can also be super soft. You gotta be prepared, okay? You can't just be a normal everyday listener of music and throw this album on and expect to like it, okay? You gotta be prepared for it, okay? This is very experimental stuff, guys. Be careful. So those are my 3 albums of the year. Let me know what you guys think of these albums, if you guys have listened to them in the past, and then let me know what you guys have been listening to this year as well. Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it.